Hello, hello. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the In Between podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Cheney, and we are here at the end of the year. Oh, that happened quick, or if you're like me, that took a minute to get to. First off, I am happy to be back. Starting to, well, I shouldn't say starting to feel more like myself. I still don't feel like myself. But in terms of, you know, getting back into the routine of things, getting back into the swing of things since losing Loon, I feel like I'm getting back. And, I'm not at anywhere the volume or capacity that I was beforehand, but that's okay. That's okay that I'm not doing 25,000 things. I've been taking my time getting back into the swing of things, taking my time in the activities or projects or things tasks I start to do. It will all get done. It will all get done. But rather than trying to force myself to do a bunch of stuff that I can't quite muster, don't quite have the mental bandwidth to handle, that's only going to make me feel more like shit. So, yeah, I've learned a thing or two about biting off more than I can chew. At least I would hope. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, we're still going through it. The holidays were hard. The holidays were difficult. We basically didn't really stay at our apartment the entire time with family, friends, but hey, baby steps. It's only been a month. So that's that. That's okay. That's okay. So on that note, welcome back to the In Between. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for everyone who's checked in on me and continues to check in on me. I really, really appreciate that. I also just want to take a moment to give a shout out, not to anyone specifically. I mean, if you're listening, you know who you are, but there were several people who reached out to me after the grief episode debuted a few weeks ago. And just I had some really beautiful conversations and messages that came from that conversation and that episode. So I just want to say thank you for those who did reach out and were vulnerable and sharing your experiences. I don't think grief's talked about enough, especially now going through it the way in which I have been. It's definitely not talked about enough. But that's why the in-between is important. That's why the in-between's great, because we talk about those kind of things. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. So, and then also we had Mom. Mom was on last week, which is, I just can't believe it. I've waited so long to have her come on, but that was fun. It was actually more fun than I thought it was going to be, because I love my mom, but she can talk, you know what I mean? And I was like, not sure how that conversation was going to go, if I was going to have to reel her in or what, but she did great. She shined. She shines into shine. So that was great. Okay, so of course, I thought that we would take the last episode of 2023 to reflect back on the year. And I got some good points to talk about, some interesting introspection, if you will. But I do want to say, before we even get into today's episode, I thought I would give you a few life updates. Like I said, I'm starting to get back into the swing of things, get back on the horse, if you will. And I miss sharing my life, sharing different things going on. But that's okay, that you just have to stop. I'm also trying to give myself grace that it's the holidays and everyone's kind of in this weird blob of what day is it? Is it a holiday? Is it the new year? Are we working? Are we really sending emails? Better yet, are we reading the emails that we receive? Probably, definitely not. So that I'm giving myself grace in that regard. But I did want to kind of update you guys on some things. So in terms of the podcast, I have a lot of cool collaborations still happening. As you all know, had to take a beat, had to take some time. So still got those still in the works. Those will probably be at the beginning of the new year. Other collaborations, some pod swaps in the works still. So that's exciting. My sinuses are activated again. Don't know what's going on. Also don't know if activated is the right word. But the past few days, my sinuses have just been absolutely out of control. So I can't breathe. I could not sleep at all last night because I just kept, I don't want to be disgusting and say choking on my snot, but that's kind of what it felt like. I don't know. I don't know. I take Zyrtec and it doesn't really help. So I don't really know what's going on. But this happened right before I went to Italy. And oddly enough, it corresponded with really bad neck pain. Like my neck was all locked up and my trigger points were all triggered, if you know what I mean. I don't know if the two are connected, but I will say my neck hurts like a mother trucker. So who knows? Who knows? But slowly dying with the sinuses. But it's fine. It's fine. And I also just want to point out really quick, I feel guilty being cheerful right now. Like, side note, grief's non-linear. So here we go with the conversation. But I just want to say, like, as I was prepping for today's episode and journaling and kind of writing the prompts and things I wanted to discuss, there were parts I was excited about. And I was like, I feel guilty. I feel guilty for being cheerful, especially because like the holidays were kind of sad. And that was just like, I don't know, a few days ago. I don't know. They say grief's not linear. Maybe it's more like a roller coaster. So with that said, sorry, side note, but just understand, I'm just saying this for the sake of my own anxiety because I know you all get it, but it's okay to be cheerful. Grief comes in waves. I should not feel guilty about being cheerful. Okay, there we go. There's the realness. There's the real. And on that note, why don't we get into the 2023 in between reflection? Yeah. Where do I even begin? This year has single-handedly felt like 10 years wrapped in one. And I know that is partially because the very tail end of my year got blown up with Luna passing. We also did a lot of traveling, but because it felt like 10 years, and as I was like going back and reflecting on the past year, which I'll get into here in a moment, it really solidified the fact that so much can happen in a year. And new year, new me, new goals. January 1 does not necessarily represent the start all starting. I even talked about this last year at the end of last year's episode. I talked about, hey, if you are in the middle of a bunch of goals, if you're overwhelmed with life in the moment, you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve because you don't have a full concrete plan of how you want your next year to look. No. This was the first year that I feel like I actually journaled and reflected. I've been very introspective since Luna left, and I'll get into that in a moment too, but I'm trying to ground myself and take stock of how I've grown as a person. It's not about having a routine or meditating or all of this. I mean, those are all parts of it, but it's the journaling aspect of reflecting. It's more about looking at my growth as an individual, as a human, my evolution as a person, versus just, did I hit my goals? Because I'll give you a little heads up. I did not hit my goals. I'm going to go into that in a moment too. It's interesting. It's not that I didn't hit them at all, but they are kind of large goals to begin with, but you'll see what I'm saying in a moment. But the point being, before we even start today's episode, I think it's good to reflect, but you can reflect any time of the year. I mean, it was just a few weeks ago that I did the 3/4 of the year check-in. You know, like, it's okay. I think as long as you're checking in with yourself and you're being intentional and those things being at the forefront, it doesn't matter when you start your goals, how you start your goals, whatever. And goals, what word can we interchange with goals? Whenever you do whatever it is you want to do, you know what I mean? It's okay. It doesn't have to start on 1/1. All right. So just wanted to get that out of the way. But with all of that said, a lot can happen in a year. And when I started 2022, that was right off the heels of me, what's the right way to say this? Recovering from my depression. I don't know if that's the right words, but just, I was a new person. I was no longer being held captive by my mental health and my depression and what was going on. So 2022 felt like a huge year of growth for me because I went from the very, very, very far side on one spectrum to, oh, okay, I do see the light in the tunnel. There is hope for me. There is so much opportunity for me in my life and what I want to do, and my dreams are endless, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, there was hope and confidence and looking forward. And I remember intention was the word I chose for that year. So 2021, 2022 were drastically different for me personally. Like, I just, I was in a hole and then I wasn't. I launched the podcast. I finally started making my dreams a reality. I finally started putting one foot in front of the other towards that. So to have such a obvious shift in perspective and momentum in life, I kind of expected that for 2023. And during this year, I have felt a little all over the place. And I was honestly kind of being a little too difficult on myself because I was comparing that contrasting difference between 2021 and 2022. So I'm like, have I regressed? Have I just not made the progress that I thought I was going to as a person? Systems, routines. Why do I feel depressed again? Blah, 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 blah. And I think the point I'm trying to make with all of this is that once I reflected back and I saw where I was at the beginning of this year versus where I am now, I actually did achieve more than I thought I did. Whether that achievement was in actual check marks off a goal sheet, maybe not. But the achievement in me, in my evolution, especially towards the gains I've made towards these goals, that's what I noticed. So I started this year off a little depressed. I'm sure if you go back and listen to past episodes from earlier this year, you're going to be like, oh yeah, she was. And I'll be transparent. That was mostly because I was looking for a new job. It wasn't quite working out for me in the job search, as in every job I was interviewing for seemed to just go through massive layoffs. The company would freeze the job. It was just everything. I'm not trying to say like, it wasn't me. I was not the problem, but it was weird considering how far I'd get in an interview or where I was in the process, how things completely outside of my control kept happening. Well, I got offered a job and then the job got rescinded almost as soon as it was given. Before any formal offer, it was verbal. And then before they could give me a written offer, it was rescinded. So I went into 2023 starting off very sad. And part of that, well, most of that is because I was tying my self-worth to the job I had and the money I was making and all of this bullshit that does not matter. So I kicked off this year feeling a little lost. And my goals for this year were to find a job, to find a house, and gain followers. Of course, I've talked off and on about routines and this and that and establishing better routines. And, although I didn't journal every day, I did journal more than I thought I did. I'd say at least 20, 25 journal entries, which for me, for the year, that's pretty impressive. Being able to go and look back and see where I was in the beginning, because I did journal a lot in the beginning. I kind of journaled in the middle, and then I started journaling at the end here when Luna got sick. And I thought that was interesting because those were like the three significant, I would say, peaks of the year for me in terms of where I was at as a person. And I was so hopeless and not at all embodying what I try to promote here on the pod about loving yourself and confidence, which I just want to say, we're going to have moments of weakness. We're going to falter here or there. Like, that's okay. But I just mean, like, I was not listening to my own advice. I was just, I'm a piece of shit. I'm a piece of crap. I'm not worth it. My worth not at all attached to who I was as a person. It was attached to everything outside of me as an individual. Well, anyways, the year continues on. I can see where I felt a little off kilter here or there, like off kilter meaning like lack of routine. I was traveling. I traveled more this year than I think I have in just, God, I don't even know how long. I had a lot of experiences. I had the best summer, one of the best summers I've had in such a long time. I went camping for the first time. We taught Luna to jump off the dock at the lake. Just great, great memories. Living life literally to the fullest. Still doing the podcast, getting to meet some cool people, but maybe a little off focus, just flying by the seat of my pants. And in the moment during the year, I think I was like judging myself a little bit for that because I felt disconnected, but really it's not that there was any disconnection. Really, I was just living life. It's just lame as that sounds. It's silly, not lame, but as silly as it sounds. So reflecting back on these journal entries and talking about the different peaks of my life, I thought that was interesting how the few times I did journal, it was like a significant, is that the right word? Either way, let's say there was 3 versions of me this year. There was the really sad lack of self-worth, not seeking my true value from my self-love at the beginning of the year. Then it was, all right, let's do this. We're gonna travel. We're gonna live life to the fullest, adventure experiences, this, that. And then the end was the most transformational part of the whole year. Kind of crazy. And when I was reflecting back on this year, the fact that so much growth and transformation happened at the end kind of threw me off a little bit. But I mean, I experienced the most significant loss of my life thus far. That changed me completely. I won't go into all the details of that because you can listen to it on the grief episode, but losing Luna was the most meaningful experience 2023 offered. And I say meaningful not because it's the most positive and the most happy. I say meaningful in the sense that it changed me to my core. And I chose to take the emptiness, the sadness, the darkness of what that loss represented and what it did to me and my life, that hole. And I made meaning from it. I drew meaning from it. I was introspective. I created one of my best episodes to date. I was so proud of that episode. I reached people that I didn't even know that they'd feel seen or validated from their own grief experiences because of this episode. It pushed me as an artist. It pushed me as a person, as a partner, as a daughter, as a caretaker. It was completely life-changing, and it happened a month ago. And I thought about that. I reflected on the feeling I had going into 2023 versus the feeling I now have going into 2024. On paper, you look at where I was last year, and it was nothing compared to what I'm dealing with now. I had Luna then. I wasn't experiencing grief. Why is it that now, in this moment, going into 2024, I am experiencing something that would absolutely make somebody spiral, absolutely put somebody in a hole and feel depressed and feel empty? Why do I feel more hopeful? Why am I more proud? Why do I feel more confident? Why do I feel like I stand taller? And I reflected on that, and I think this year taught me the true value of self-confidence. It taught me truly what it meant to bet on myself. So let's go back to my goals this year. Job, house, followers. So with the job, I want to make more money. I want to do a little bit more fulfilling work. I'm just ready to grow my skill set. I'm ready for a different challenge. In this year, my perspective has completely shifted, that I don't necessarily need to jump ship to another company to make more money. I mean, yes, you do. But why was I ignoring the obvious goal that was sitting there that I refused to acknowledge? Why was I ignoring the fact that, what about me as Elizabeth making my own money through the podcast, through courses, through other things that I could provide? Me in January of this year would have laughed and been like, even though I'm trying to do this podcast and make it a career, I still need more of a foundation, because you never know. This year taught me to say, screw it. I'm betting on myself. The only way I'm going to be successful is if I do it. And that was the biggest realization I think I could have had. I am only going to be successful if I am the one who actually does it. And that starts with, you know what? Sometimes we have to make sacrifices. Maybe right now I'm not going to make the money that I would like to make, because something bigger is waiting for me on the other side. I have never felt more confident in my ability to do what I'm saying. This next year, 2024, my goal isn't so much a new job. The goal has shifted to make my money for me. Because, hey, I love my team. If I can do that because I can do it in my sleep and make some money off of it and then focus on the dream, the real dream in the meantime, that's the path. That's the plan. That's what I choose to do. So I was like, no, I don't have a new job, but I do have a new sense of self-confidence. Confidence that, I'm going to make money for me. I don't need a new job to make that money. I'm going to be the one that does it. No new house. Yeah, that one sucks. But guess what? Rates have come down. So now Stan and I's purchase power has increased. So now we can afford more home, which, there's more homes in line with what we're looking for. Also, we've learned the whole process. We have found the right people on the team to help us find the house. We've learned how all this shit works, and it's still confusing as hell. I couldn't even explain it to you, but it's in here. It's in my head, I get it. But buying a house is honestly rocket science as far as I'm concerned. And side note on the whole house buying thing, I have decided that buying a house is one of the mortal enemies of somebody with ADHD. Let me explain. I want at least 2 bathrooms, at least 3 bedrooms, maybe a certain amount of square footage, because sometimes these homes be selling for $600K and they're 12,000 square or 1,200 square feet, 12,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet. And you're like, no, thank you. That's ridiculous. Okay. But anyways, I have a range of the house price, because we're looking at different areas. Some areas are going to be more expensive than others. So I have a wide net. Maybe one might argue I should make the net smaller, but then I think, well, what if I miss the one home in the wider net at the different price point? I don't know. I'm making myself crazy. The point being with the ADHD comment is there are so many homes, and I look through them and I'm like, Okay. And when I say so many homes, what I mean is when you first open the app, sure, there's a lot, but there's no new homes that are coming through. So once you've looked at the homes, that's basically it. There's been like, I don't know, 2, 3 homes each week. So you're feeling crazy because you're looking at the same homes. And then, you desperately want a house. So you think, well, should I settle? But no, I shouldn't settle. This is a huge thing. Buying a house is a humongous thing, especially for people like me who don't have daddy Warbucks paying for my down payment. You know what I mean? I don't got that daddy money, that mama money helping me with this down payment. Okay. So part of me is like, I want to make sure I find the right home. But then part of me is like, well, you're not going to find your dream home. And then part of me is like, well, what if you do? But realistically, I know that's not going to happen. But regardless, settling and finding your dream home, apparently there is a lot of runway between those two concepts. So I've been driving myself crazy because I'm like, well, this one's okay. But in reality, it's not okay, y'all. The bathrooms are disgusting. Someone may have died in that bathtub. It's got carpet from 1973. I'm just like, gross, but it's got the space I need. Or this home is completely renovated, but it's literally 2 bedrooms and it's 900 square feet. And I'm just like, all right. So I say this whole process is such a shame for somebody with ADHD because I am just in a hamster wheel of, do I settle? Am I settling? Am I overthinking? What am I doing? Oh my gosh. But in reality, it's that there's just not that many homes to choose from, and that's okay. Just be patient. I also feel like I have this like fear because like during the pandemic when we first kind of started this whole process, homes were selling for way more than they were worth, and they were like skipping due diligence and all these crazy like contingencies, and homes were just like popcorn, like just popping off, like getting sold. So now when I see a home that's been on the market for more than 2 weeks, I question. I'm like, well, what's wrong with this home? Because, well, that's how the environment's been for so long. So I do not know what else to do other than just stick my head in the dirt. Oh my God. It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I don't even think that phrase really is fair to say. I think I'm just crazy and overthinking this whole thing. So am I being picky? Yes. Am I settling? No. And I was like, gonna think of a punchline with that, but I got nothing. So for all my friends who have bought a house, especially if you bought your house during the pandemic, leave me alone. You got a great interest rate, and yeah, I'm jealous. Hindsight 2020, but that's a different conversation for a different day. So anyways, point being, 2023 goal of finding a home didn't happen, but I'm very confident it's going to happen at the beginning of the new year because we have all the right people on the team. We know what we're doing at this point. Rates have come down, so now we can afford a home in the price range that we originally thought we'd be able to. So the homes are starting to look a little bit better. So we'll see. Will I continue to spiral thinking, oh my gosh, 1 new home in 2 weeks, I need to get it? Probably. Am I going to settle? No. I think I just talked in circles, but you catch my drift. And the third goal was followers, more growth. And I just want to say, good news. The website is going to be done next week. Very, very excited. I invested in myself to give myself the tools, but I didn't do that till the very end of the year. I spent this year, I started off depressed, and then I was like, I'm going to do experiences and live my life to the fullest, and I don't regret that at all. I made so many wonderful memories, and I got some great content out of it because living life is experience and important and helps you grow, for sure. But did I spend money in marketing and all of this? For most of the year, no. And I, for the most part, grow this podcast by word of mouth, texting people, this and this, that and that. Now, with the website and having all of those tools in place in the next year, like, oh yeah, growth is a huge thing. But now I've partnered with somebody who's a natural entrepreneur, marketing genius. So she's going to help me create like strategy and social media and this and this. Like I'm actually, it's not just having the tools like, oh, software, website, this and this. I have the information, the knowledge, right? The Wikipedia, if you will, of how to actually grow this baby. But regardless, 2024 goals, yes, is happening, but let's look at 2023. So I want to grow with followers. And if you look at just a quick overview of what I did, like personally to grow it, minimal. It was minimal. But as I'm looking at my Spotify, like recap, I'm looking at I host my podcast through Buzzsprout, which I know that means probably nothing to y'all, but it's where I host the actual podcast and it pushes it out to all the players. They have a recap as well. My listeners, my followers grew 84% this year. This year, 84%. Does that mean I have thousands of downloads per episode? No, not yet. But just on the bare minimum, if you will, I grew 84%. So I did check that mark off. Because my goal wasn't, market your podcast, come up with a marketing strategy and grow. It was just grow. And by those means and those metrics, that's growth, baby. I was listened to in 10 countries, 4,000 plus downloads this year. Wow. And guess what? There's going to come a point where that's how many I make in a month. There's going to be a point where that's how many I make in a single episode in a week. This is how we start. And then we keep going. So I know I kind of went all over the place with this, reflecting on the 3 main goals I have for 2023. But this is the point I wanted to make in my reflection of the year in review. I made these goals defined by my worth. What was going to make me proud, make me happy. And what I learned is I had to shift the perspective. And that perspective is and always will be what I think of myself. So the job thing. I don't need necessarily a new job, a new company. Yeah, I'll make more money, sure. But with the goals I have and what I want for myself in my life, I had to think bigger. And I didn't realize it at the time. I had to let go of some insecurities that were still holding me back in that mindset. Now I truly feel like I'm free falling. And I don't mean that like free falling without a plan, but free falling as in I am definitely not going the predicted route of my life. I am following my dreams, following my passions, following my goals, and trusting the process, trusting the universe, trusting that I am going to pull this off because I've noticed every little step I take, an opportunity, whatever you want to call it, presents itself, that it is going to happen. So if I do put all of my eggs in this basket, which I know I've talked about a few weeks ago, sometimes it's okay to put all your eggs in that basket. And I did not realize that there was some aversion from myself in that regard. The house. Well, I wish we had a house, but I'm glad we haven't settled because now we're going to be able to find the house that better serves our needs. And the followers. I did grow. You can't deny 84%. That's something. And that's amazing. So looking in the year ahead, what are things that I want to do more of? Well, I'll tell you one, I want to journal. Doing this exercise of just reflecting it was kind of fun, I'm not going to lie. But it reminds you of what you have achieved because living the day-to-day, moment by moment, especially here lately where I have just felt like I'm such a brain frog since we lost Loon, I'm not going to get the full scope, the full picture. So being able to reflect and see that growth and see that transformation, that progress, that's impactful. That keeps me going. That keeps me inspired. That reminds me, oh, hell yeah, I'm the shit. Oh, hell yeah, I've got this. This sounds silly, but me and Stan talked all year about getting on our own phone plan and really adulting and like being the grown-ups that we really are. We did that. Was it a miserable experience? Absolutely. We were at T-Mobile for 4.5 hours. I kid you not, it was less than pleasurable. Oh, Lord have mercy. Everything that could go wrong went wrong in the account transfer. To be fair, it was a unique situation because I was an existing T-Mobile customer and was trying to open a new account. Don't know why that was rocket science, but 4.5 hours later, I still ended the evening having to call T-Mobile corporate and get some things figured out. But guess what? We did. And I am now the new owner of the iPhone 15, which, side note, the cameras on those things are a little too good, okay? Look, I know my face is breaking out. I am finally getting back in the swing of things and taking care of myself since losing Loon because let me tell y'all, I fell off the bandwagon hard. I was taking a selfie, checking out the new camera, and I was like, what is wrong with this camera? Like, I just look dark. Like, not like dark lighting, but like my face looked gray. I swear there was more spots on my face than what I was seeing in the mirror. And I'm just like, what is wrong with my face? Like, oh my God. And then it hit me, oh, there's nothing wrong with the camera. This is just my face. This camera is just so freaking good that it shows every nook, cranny, crater, pimple, mark. God, there's probably marks from when I entered this world out of my mother that show up on this camera. The high def doesn't even give it justice. I was talking to a friend earlier today, side note, I know, here we go. And she was like, I feel like the new cameras show things that you can't even see with your own eyes. And I'm like, I agree with that. I don't know who this ghost, this dark, I mean, my face looked gray. It looked better with natural lighting, so there's that. But yeah, it really showed me who I was. So I am learning to embrace myself even more so through the new iPhone camera, because it does not lie. That is for damn sure. But anyways, I digress. So there's a goal. Me and Stan, we got on our own T-Mobile plan. I'm proud of us. We are adulting. It's still highway robbery, but we are adulting. We are adulting. But to kind of go back into what else I want to bring into the new year, I am betting on myself. I know that only I can make these dreams a reality. Only I can push the lever forward. And if you remember one thing from the grief episode, I talk about moving forward with Luna's passing, moving forward with grief and any loss. And that word forward has been at the forefront of my thoughts lately. Forward. Forward. We move forward with Luna's passing. We're moving forward in the home buying process, moving forward, trying to find that, making that a reality, moving forward. That is my word for the next year. I'm moving forward knowing I can do this and invest in myself. I spent the money to invest in the website and branding and the social media calendar and kind of figuring out that whole plan and that system. Okay, cool. So I'm now kicking off 2024 with essentially a brand kit. Like, I got my shit together. And you want to hear something funny? Very beginning of 2023, like January 4th, that was the first journal entry I did this year. I was talking about how, all right, my goal this month is to record a trailer for the podcast. Wow. So beginning of this year, I was trying to do a trailer. Beginning of this coming next year, I've got a website. I've got collaborations in the works. I got pod swaps planned. I have all these cool experts on various topics planned to come on the pod. That's huge. I didn't even think about that. But by reflecting, I did. I moved forward with continuing to bet on myself that, you know what? This may not feel like society standards or society's norm, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to walk this path because it hasn't let me down yet. And I'm going to try to minimize the spiral when my thoughts do go that place. Another thing I want to add, speaking of your thoughts spiraling this and this, that and that, I feel like I got a better grip on my anxiety and ADHD this year in controlling it. Yeah, I'm anxious. I mean, I get anxious in the car. I got PTSD with the car accident, all this kind of shit. I get anxious little things here and there, clutter, whatever. But the overall anxiety that will come in when your brain's trying to sabotage you and make you question your worth and make you second guess what you're doing, I got a grip on that. I've been able to pick myself up quicker, pick myself up by the bootstraps. That's impressive. I'm proud of myself. So did I achieve all the big three of goals this year? No. But in a weird way, I did in some regards. Maybe not the house, but hey, we had to wait for the rates to drop. The housing market, I was set up a little bit at a disadvantage, if you know what I mean. And a reminder, somebody told me this last week. There is no better time than now. And as I said about the year feeling like 10 years, this year feeling like 10 years, I mean it. A lot can happen in a year. So take inventory. Even if you didn't journal, think about, maybe break it down into seasons, break it down to quarters, break it down by month. Think about all the things you accomplished. Focus on the good stuff. Don't let your brain focus on the negative first. Start on the good. What was the highlight? And maybe the highlight of that month, that quarter, was just showing up for yourself, brushing your teeth every day, washing your face, eating balanced meals, getting enough rest, going outside. You don't have to be launching a brand, starting a new company, trying to find your partner. I don't even know. Move into a new home. Sometimes surviving is the most important thing. And that's okay. Honestly, I think that's more than okay. I think that's critical that you recognize that. Because if we can't survive, how are we going to thrive? If we can't survive, how are we going to move forward? So if all you did this year was prove to yourself that you can survive and you did it, hell yeah. That is worth a clap, round of applause, hug, pat on the back, everything. Good for you. I've had that season where survival, that was all I could muster. I have been there. And look at me now. Do I have it all figured out? Hell no. But you know what? I bet there's people who look at this and think, God dang, yeah, she does. This isn't so much a lesson I've learned this year alone, but just one thing that continues to prove over and over to me as an adult. We're all just faking it. We are literally all just faking it till we make it. So you survive this year, next year you're going to thrive. 2 years ago, I was in the darkest hole and didn't think anything was possible. Never thought I'd ever start the podcast, let alone have 84% growth with the bare minimum of marketing and putting it out there. And here we are. I'm also navigating one of the hardest seasons of my life and losing my pup, my baby, my soul dog, my child. And I'm getting through it. And I'm not trying to gaslight anybody who's going through their own hardships and maybe they need more time. Fuck no. This is the first time I have felt somewhat okay in the past month since losing her. So much can happen in a year. And I am proud of where I started and where I've landed and where I continue to go. And all I want is for you to feel the same. So if you're not feeling that way, do some introspection. Again, focus on the positives. Don't focus on what you didn't do. Focus on what you did learn about yourself. Because like I've said this whole episode, when your perspective shifts and you realize, oh, these things weren't for me. This actually wasn't aligned in my greater purpose, my greater goal. It releases you from the criticism, the self-criticism, and it allows you to have a clearer path forward. There's no more bullshit in the way. Or at least there's less bullshit in the way. So overall 2023 lessons. Confidence in myself. I mean, shit, y'all, I planned my first big international trip. That's a huge feat. I did that. And I'm damn proud of it because it was hard. Definitely learned a lot of lessons in the process. Lots of lessons learned on how to make it cheaper. But you know what? Hey, first time is something. You learn a lot and you keep moving forward. Another thing, I did the hard thing. With Luna, like I'm doing the hard thing. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I do keep reminding myself, I'm doing the hard thing. I'm getting up every day. And some days are easier, some days are harder, but I'm still getting up. On the good days, I get more done. So on the bad days, I give myself more peace, more rest, more grace. I wouldn't have been able to do that a year ago. Definitely not 2 years ago. Stan and I have gotten closer. Losing Loon definitely brought us closer, but I think through me managing my ADHD and anxiety and the little things that would tick me off or just the ticks that would get me going, so to speak, whether it was through him or life, work, just mostly me, I've worked on letting all that little shit go. And we've gotten closer. And what's also beautiful in our closeness is this also helped bring up conversations of some of his unhealthy family dynamics. And I'm not going to get into any of those specifics on the pod. This is not Stan's podcast. You know what I mean? But the biggest lesson I've learned this year, I am the only one who can define me and my worth. If you can define your worth, if you control the narrative, I feel like the opportunities are endless. And that is a huge lesson that I think I've learned, yes, but I know it's something that I will have to continue to nurture because, well, anxiety and your worth, they're like clashing forces. So, you know, they're going to be at odds at times, but the more I work on it, the easier that management gets. So in summary, I'm not the person I was going into 2023. I'm excited for 2024. I know it'll have its own fair share of hardships and lessons learned, but I also feel like all of the fruits of my labor are about to pay off. And in the meantime, let's hope your girl establishes a better routine because I feel like I'm in a constant pursuit of a routine. God. Again, I am the only one that can control my own fate, my own worth. So I'm the only one who can get my life together to actually establish a routine. Who knows? Maybe this confidence, this self-confidence discovery will propel me to actually do that. But until then, like I said last week's episode with my mom, this is going to be a butterfly year. And I don't think butterfly years are single. I mean, every year theoretically could be a butterfly year if you think about it. So go do some journaling, go do a recap and tell me like what changes did you have? What goals did you accomplish? What goals evolved? What aha moments did you find within yourself? I know they're there. Remember, focus on the good. And don't forget, next week we are having the Vision Board Party, January 6th. You can register at the link in my bio on both my Instagram pages at @betweenpod and at @ElizabethCheney_. So give me a follow there. I'm trying to get back into the swing of things, of posting more. To be honest, I'm just like, how do people post all the time? Because like I'm just working at my desk doing shit like this, and just, do y'all just want to see me like sitting here drinking water and working, typing, sending emails? All those little like, get ready with me come to work with me. I'm like, is my life just not interesting enough? Because I just stay in this little apartment and work remote. I don't know. Now I'm digressing on a whole other different tangent, but whatever. Maybe when I buy a house, we'll really have all the content. But anywho, I digress. Check out the vision board party. Would love to have you there. We're going to crush goals. And I think I might do an episode on it too for those who can't attend or who's just interested. Because I think there's some value in visualizing your goals. But even when those goals don't happen, like again this year, visualizing, so they're there, take inventory, but then reflecting on how those changed or evolved. And you're like, oh, perspective. Again, wow, always comes back full circle. Love that, love that, love that. Oh, but anyways, we did it. We did another year. We made it. Cheers to 2023. All the lessons learned, introspection, introspected, progress made. Let's move forward with the lessons we've learned. Let's move forward with the perspective shifts. Let's move forward in knowing that we can do it. We will do it as long as we believe it ourselves. All right. So on that note, follow me. Like I said, Instagram at @in.betweenpod, Elizabeth Cheney _ Those are my 2 handles. And you can follow me on TikTok at The In Between Podcast and YouTube at The In Between Podcast as well. And with that said, I'm going to go because one, this halo light is making me sweat through my sweater, but girl needs it because, well, the iPhone camera is just too freaking good now. So on that. But more importantly, I will catch you on an all new In Between next week, which also happens to be next year. Funny enough. So until then, I'm Elizabeth and I'll see you then. Bye.